Okay, so today we're making this Kumiko desk stand with 3D printed elements. Let's hop into Fusion where I show you how I designed the base. So, now that we're in Fusion, I'm gonna explain a little bit more about what I'm actually making. I'm making a Kumiko Asanoha pattern. Now, I'm designing it to be a 3D model, so if anyone wants to print it themselves, they can. This would put up probably on Bamboo Handy. The one you see me currently making is one I made just for the video because I forgot to originally record myself making the original pattern. Now this will be a Kumiko insert into a base, so you can print them in different colors and you don't need any type of AMS system. There will also be a slight bit of a rabbit just so that you can easily insert it with a seamless finish for anything, and also just be able to screw it to any material that you want on the top of the surface. You'll see it coming up, but this will be the original pattern that you will actually be able to see and be able to use. It's much more symmetrical than the one that I did for the video. Now, I wanted this project to be really good, so I did a test print with PLA Basic and that turned out really well. So I decided let's splurge a little bit and get wood PLA, and that will just make the project look really good and it will make it a more luxury type of thing that I made. Now, it has done that, but since I'm a 3D printing beginner, there were some issues that came up that I'll talk about later in the video, that if you know the answer, please leave it down in the comments because I would love to actually know the answer myself. I have no idea why, when it got near the top, it decided to have a bit of layering issues. But you'll see that later when I put the little feet on so that they don't scratch any type of surfaces. The way that I am attaching everything is just by using epoxy. Now, you can probably use a couple different things. I just know epoxy can bond a lot of things together, so that's just what I decided to use. I'm sure you can use 5-minute epoxy and it'll work just as well. I decided to use the epoxy that I use for river pours just because it allows me to have a bit more open time. It's a bit runnier, so it allows, I think, the glue to contact just a little bit better, and it just, again, allowed that long working time, which for this, it did take me a while, so I wanted to make sure that I had enough time to actually get everything glued together. Now the insert, since there's a bunch of weird angles and it's a very thin piece, I just decided to tape it as it seemed like the most logical thing to do, and it worked out really well. Like, tape holds a lot of things together. I use it when I make miter boxes, so I had no issue with it. Just make sure you get a good quality tape that will actually stick to PLAs or any types of plastic that you use, because I do know some masking tapes, if you get lower quality ones, their adhesive is not necessarily as good as others. So just be mindful when you are getting that. If it's not working, it could just be the masking tape itself. Now we get on to the actual woodworking. Now, I've had this slab in my workshop since I was in year 12, so that was nearly 5 years ago, and this was originally for an art project, but it's just been sitting there. It had resin in it, it was all chipped, I didn't know what to do with it. I was going to make a shelf, but when I thought of this project, I brought them into the workshop, I just saw it lying on the ground, and I'm like, that is the perfect idea. Because I wanted it to match well with my desk, which is a river gum, which is a very red timber, I was like, well, I might as well get a material that is also red. It just happened to be the slab was bloodwood, and it's very nice to work with. The resin, as you'll see, is very chippy, so a lot of the sanding in this project was actually just sanding away the chips in the resin. Now, this resin has been setting for multiple years. Like, I poured this resin, I think, at least 3 years ago. So when I first planed it, it chipped a little bit. I tried to fill in the gaps with some resin, and then I was gonna try and do thin passes just to slightly skim it so that it wouldn't chip out again. But of course, it did. It didn't work out as I thought. So I had just 80 grit and I was just sanding through these chips. Now, that's not necessarily the best thing to do, as you can leave divots and stuff in your projects. If it required a little bit more care, like a dining table, then I might not have done it that way. But it is just a monitor stand, so there's not much being put on it anyway. So I had no worry with just sanding through the chips, and it came up absolutely stellar. Now, in the project, I decided to sand it the way that I sand regular projects. So I go 80 as a very rough sand, get all the hard edges off, get all the roughness off, and get all any burn marks off. Then I move to 120. That gets me a very nice consistent finish. I put then my first coat of oil on. Then after that oil sets for 24 to 48 hours, I wipe it off, and then I do another sand at 240. Now this is my finishing sand. It basically just compacts all the fibers that might have been raised from that first finish, and then move on to it just being silky smooth. With this project, instead of applying a hard wax finish like Osmo, I didn't have any in my shop, so I applied this bio wax, which is a colorless finish, which if you didn't apply an oil beforehand, it'll look like that you didn't apply a finish. I figured that out in that project, so if you want, go have a look at that. But since I applied an oil beforehand, it came up absolutely great, and it's nice and well protected because it is a wax finish. Like I said before, I just attached this tabletop with screws. Now, you could have applied them with threaded inserts, and I'm sure that would have worked perfectly fine. I just wanted a quick, simple, easy answer, and I can't see this being a super high, intense, strength needing project like bolts when you're attaching a tabletop to a base. So, screws work perfectly fine. Their tensile strength is perfectly fine for what this is, and it did come out nice and strong, so that if there is a little bit of movement in the stand itself, like if you're rocking it side to side a little bit, it'll be fine. It won't collapse under it as long as you used the right stuff. Like I said a little bit earlier in the video, I had a bit of layering issues, and you can see it here when I'm applying the felt feet. Now, this is what the black stand looks like. This is just the PLA, and there is still very slight layering lines, but nowhere near as bad as that. Now, I'm not entirely sure on why it happens. I'm guessing it's just because it was too tall and it was straight, and there's not like too much in terms of like meat to it, so it could have rattled a little bit when the bed's moving quickly and all that. So that's sort of the hypothesis on why this turned out the way it did, why the layering lines were so bad. But if you wanted to, you could print this with one of like either this face being on the bed or this face on the bed, and I think it would turn out much better. I don't think you'd get as smooth layering lines on this part, but that's totally up to you guys and your experimentation. If you find the best orientation for it, drop it down in the comments so that everyone else who uses the project knows as well. Okay, and the desk stand is done. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Hopefully, if you enjoyed enough, you would drop a subscribe, as that really helps out my channel more than you guys could ever know. And drop down if you'd like to even buy some of these stands, as I'm thinking about selling them on my website. And if you guys want to watch another video from my channel, the YouTube algorithm thinks this one is the one you'll like the most. Anyway, guys, hope to see you in the next one. See ya.